Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So, in my last video I talked about my referral going into the Ontario Bariatric Network. So from there, approximately July, my referral went in 2019, and within a month I received a package in the mail. In the package in the mail was a questionnaire that I had to fill out, and going through the questions I was like, oh my god, they're gonna look at me and be like, there's so many things this girl needs to change, and they're gonna say I don't qualify and that I'm out and it's just gonna be a done deal. So I was scared. I was like, do I fill this out honestly? Do I lie about it? I didn't know. So I filled it out honestly, and there was questions about sleeping and your eating habits, and when your weight started to get out of control, what kinds of things you've tried to um, help with your weight. What are your support systems? Have you told your family members? Do you have people who are negative about your journey? And that kind of thing. So I filled it out as best as I could. It also came with a 2-week food journal and an appointment for a class to attend. So I looked at the 2-week journal and I thought, oh my god, they're going to look at this and be like, maybe she shouldn't have eaten some of those Pringles at night. Maybe she shouldn't have had that little piece of chocolate. Maybe she needs to cut out whatever. And I was mortified. So I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to try to eat really healthy for the 2 weeks that I have to log this journal. And I did. I ate really healthy and charted everything that I ate, everything that I put in my mouth, the amounts, everything. And I still, after eating really good, did not lose a pound. I was so upset. I went to the orientation class, and in the orientation class you listen to a nurse practitioner, a dietitian, and a social worker. Each of them kind of has a little blurb on what gastric bypass, each of their standpoints. So from the social worker standpoint, they talk about support systems to make sure that you have a great support system behind you. The dietitian goes through some of the changes that you're going to have to make. The nurse practitioner goes over the different surgeries. There's 2 different surgeries that are most common, and how they work to make you lose weight. So at the end of the class, you get to choose if you want to do the medical program or the surgical program. I chose the surgical program because I knew my weight is out of control, and waiting a year plus for the medical program, they told us that, people who do the medical program a lot of times end up switching into the surgical program because they're just not losing enough. So I went with the surgical program. So within a month, I got an appointment to see the nurse. So I went back up to the hospital. I saw the nurse. She did like my height, my weight, my blood pressure, and she went over my questionnaire. She didn't think that I needed any extra testing. I had to get a blood work panel done, and I had to get an ECG done. I didn't have any stomach issues that they thought an endoscopy was required, and they didn't feel that I had sleep apnea. So I moved through fairly quickly. So after I was done at that appointment, I got another appointment to meet the social worker and dietitian. So this appointment was on November 1st. I saw the dietitian and the social worker. The dietitian wanted to go over my food journal. She said I made some really great choices. She did make some suggestions to try putting your fork down in between bites, to try chewing for a whole 30 seconds, and that seems really easy. I was like, yeah, I can go home and do that, no problem. Well, it's harder than you think. When you're used to eating on the go and being so busy all the time and you're just like mindlessly eating, when you actually have to sit down and be like, I need to chew this food until it's an applesauce consistency and make sure that I put my fork down and eat slowly, it is so hard, and I'm still struggling with this. So I strongly suggest that if you are pre-op, to try to slow down your eating and make sure you really chew your food. I know it sounds really simple and really stupid, but it is so difficult. Sometimes I still find that I take bites that are too big and I end up with pain. So that's one thing that if you are pre-op, I strongly suggest trying. There's a really good app that they recommend. It's called Berrytastic. And on that app, they actually have a timer for the 30 seconds while you're chewing, and they actually have a timer on there for the 30 minutes that you have to wait before meals and after meals to drink. And that is also very difficult because I was always eating and drinking at the same time, and I can't do that now. So that is another thing that I strongly suggest trying to work on before having surgery. It is very difficult, even though it sounds like just don't eat when you drink. Don't drink when you eat. It's very hard. So those were some of the things that the dietitian recommended to me, and I thought it'd be no problem, but it still is a problem. With the social worker, when I met with him, he wanted to know who I lived with, who I've told about my surgery, if the people that I've told were supportive or not. And everybody that I had told was really supportive. He also wanted to know if I had told my kids, that I was having surgery, and I didn't. But he gave me some great literature to take home and on how to explain to my kids that I was having gastric bypass surgery in a way that they would understand. And so that I found really helpful. After I met with them, I got a call 2 days later from the hospital saying that Dr. Zevin had reviewed my chart and he thought I was a great candidate for surgery. I was ecstatic, but now the nerves were setting in. I was scared. I was like, I am actually going to have surgery. Like, this is getting real. So I got my appointment to the pre-surgical class, which was the following Wednesday, and I went to that. I brought my husband with me, and in that meeting you met with the dietitian and social worker the second time. In that class, they discussed more in depth of what your vitamin requirements will be after surgery, different vitamin combos to take. Like if you wanted to do one vitamin a day, that's all, plus your calcium. If you wanted to take everything separate, which some people like to do, I couldn't imagine taking my B12 and my iron and my calcium and my multivitamin and everything all separate. So I went with the ProCare vitamins just because it's a one and done, and then you just take your calcium separately from that. But they go through the different options for different kinds of vitamins, and if you take this brand of vitamin, you'll need to take this twice a day, add this, and that kind of thing. They also go over what your diet pre-op will be. So for 2 to 3 weeks, you have to do OptiFast, and OptiFast sucks, let me tell you. So they go through that, and how you take the OptiFast, what the requirements are for the OptiFast, what you're allowed to eat extra, which isn't much, and how to go about buying it. So at that appointment, at that class, I also got my appointment to meet the surgeon in 2 days. So the Friday I went up and I met the surgeon, and initially, because of my medication, that's an extended release, I was like, I do not want to have the RNY. I really want the sleeve. I have migraines, and what if I need to take Advil? I think that the sleeve would be a better option. Well, the surgeon and I discussed, and he thought that I wouldn't be happy with the sleeve. A lot of people who have the sleeve, he said, tend to come back with not an adequate amount of weight loss. They end up having a lot of acid reflux, and they end up needing a revision. So I was like, well, I'm petrified to have surgery in the first place, so I will just go with the RNY and whatever he suggests. I was a little nervous about my medication being a extended release, so that was my biggest fear at that point. I purchased my OptiFast, and so I saw him on the Friday, and I started my OptiFast on the Saturday. OptiFast was gross. I was hungry, and all I could have was 20 extra calories, and it could only be from broth or sugar-free Jello. So sugar-free Jello has 5 calories per 1 cup, and I think it's 10 calories for a half a cup of broth. So I lived off of 4 OptiFast shakes a day, some chicken broth, and some sugar-free Jello. I lost 17 pounds on the OptiFast journey. So I know people say not to jump on the scale, and that works for some people, but I needed to constantly see that my weight was going down so that I continued with the OptiFast, because it would be, if I didn't see any change, I would be tempted to just throw in the towel and be like, screw it, I'm done. So I kept seeing changes, and I was like, you know what, this is great. So I then got my appointment for the anesthesiologist and that kind of appointment. I met with the nurse. She went over my medications. She went over everything. I got all my information on what to do the night before surgery. No food past midnight, which I wasn't eating food at that point anyways, and that I could have clear fluids up until 3 hours before my surgery. The fluids that she suggested were ginger ale, apple juice, and Coca-Cola. 1, I didn't think Coca-Cola was a clear fluid. 2, I can't have carbonated beverages, and I can't have apple juice, so none of that pertained to me. I had to go get blood work, and during my blood work, I nearly fainted because I was so weak. After that, I went home, and I was scared. I had never had surgery before, didn't know what to expect. I was shitting bricks. The day before my surgery came, and I was like, oh my god, I can't believe that I'm having surgery. So I did not sleep at all the night before surgery. I will post another video on my surgery day and post-op recovery. So if you want to like my videos, subscribe to my channel, and watch for the next video.